Hey everyone, welcome back to yet another episode of Talking Success. We are gearing up towards kind of the event of the year here in South Africa. We have the G20, and I'm not specifically talking about that, but we have the African FinTech Festival in combination with the South African FinTech Awards. And I'm super delighted to have our friends now from Vodacom Business and Partners on the podcast. We're going to be talking about all things Vodacom. We're going to be talking about all things payments, ecosystem, fintech. But I kind of wanted to use this opportunity as well, right at the beginning, just to say thank you to Kevin, who will introduce himself in the moment, for being a tremendous supporter of the African FinTech Festival and the FinTech Awards that are coming up. Vodacom Business Service and their support and their interaction, their guidance in terms of what this festival looks like really has been exemplary, and we're looking forward to seeing everyone in Pretoria later in November. But more about that later. Kevin Taps, lovely to meet you. Thanks so much for joining. Kevin, I kind of mentioned you're from Vodacom Business Services, but that doesn't tell the whole story. So I'm going to let you do a quick intro, and then I'm going to pass over to Taps, and then I've got one or two questions for you guys. So I hope you're sitting comfortably.
No, thank you. Thank you so much, Darren. It's definitely a pleasure to be here with you today, and looking forward to the Africa FinTech Festival, like you mentioned. So, as Darren mentioned, my name is Kevin Odudoh. I head up the business development function within Vodacom Business. Now, a lot of people probably don't know about Vodacom Business, and are probably asking why Vodacom Business is here today talking to you about FinTech. But we have evolved over the last couple of years to be an integrated technology partner of choice for a lot of industries. And in this particular instance, we're looking at how we can enable the fintech ecosystem to really thrive in the context of, in the African context.
Kevin, thank you. I've got loads of questions. I'll save them for a minute. Otherwise, Taps is not going to get an opportunity to say hello. So, Taps, over to you. Nice to meet you. Actually, the first time we've met. So, tell us a bit about you and kind of who you're working with and what your role is within this ecosystem.
Cool. Thanks for the shout, Darren. Yep, like you said, my name's Taps. Taps is the brand, as I like to say. But on the documentation, you'll find my name is Tapfuma Mvere. I work at XLink. I look after product for them. And XLink is a wholly owned subsidiary of Vodacom. And we like to call ourselves a FinTelco. So we provide services across act as a fintech, and then also act as a little bit of a telco, and all housed under the umbrella of Vodacom, our parent company from that perspective.
Great, thank you. So let's kind of open the conversation up. There are many aspects and many nuances of fintech financial services broadly. From a Vodacom Business Services perspective and XLink in terms of that partnership or that ownership, what is the offering? What are you coming to market in saying you can help? You said, Kevin, you said sort of enablement and helping fintechs and helping financial services. What does that mean? Can you just unpack it briefly? And include something about the Vodacom vision as well for 2030, because I think that's some good context.
Yeah, definitely. So from a Vodacom perspective, Vision 2030 really is, what is the big picture? What is the big picture for us in terms of where we want to land in 2030? And where should fintech be focusing on, or be focusing their energies right now? So that's pretty much where, we come from a Vodacom Business perspective. We've actually been evolving over the last couple of years, like I mentioned, and now we are no longer just a telco. We call ourselves a technology communications company, or a tech co. And we ultimately want to be seen in the market, or recognized in the market as a digico, right? So we are not just connecting Africa, but we are powering digital ecosystems that are trusted, compliant, and scalable across the continent. So for fintechs, what does that mean for them? So it means that the priority right now isn't just providing another point solution for them, but it's orchestrating a trusted ecosystem that talks to, cloud, cybersecurity, AI, payments, all operating systems on secure platforms with embedded compliance, and most importantly, customer-centric innovation. So the real value unlock for us is scaling digital transformation while reducing the risk of complexity, the risk and complexity of doing business as a financial services provider on the continent. So this is how we improve, speed to market without compromising governance, for example, the market. So there's widely one piece, and that's pretty much how I'd like for business to be remembered in this context around, the fintech ecosystem.
Kevin, I'll come to you in a second, Taps. But in terms of that, if you were to sort of summarize that, is it sort of infrastructure as a service that Vodacom Business Services is offering? Is it kind of the software layer on top of that? Is it a platform? What is that? If you were to go to a customer and they say, what do you do? What would be your answer?
Yeah, that's actually a very good question. And it's almost like putting me in a box, which is something that I don't want to be put in, right?
In the cloud, right? You want to be in the cloud.
My answers are more or less more broad, in nature, and that is actually by design. So if you think about the Africa financial services industry, it's kind of like at a tipping point at the moment, especially with, fintechs and, of course, the traditional banks, insurers, and most importantly as well, the SMEs that everyone is actually trying to target. They're under significant pressure to modernize, to innovate, and to stay compliant, all while controlling costs and managing risk. So at Vodacom Business, and this is where we come in actually, we believe that the future isn't about isolated solutions. The future is about building trusted ecosystems that enable speed, resilience, and inclusion. And this is why we've partnered with the likes of Finasa, for example, to partner in this fintech ecosystem. This is why we have my colleague from XLink, which is our Vodacom Business subsidiary, and they'll tell you more about what they do. And of course, some of the other cloud and hosting platforms that we have, which, I'll be talking a lot more about, which is pretty much around, how do you bring AI in a cloud environment that actually enables, the compliance requirements in the many African countries that you've seen over the last couple of years. So something that we've actually termed a sovereign AI cloud. How do you bring that to life in our ecosystem? So, that creates the backbone of a very secure, compliant digital ecosystem that powers Africa's financial future. And that is pretty much where we'd like to be.
Great. Okay. I'll unpack some of that in a minute. Taps, in terms of where you guys come in, XLink, if you want to understand, please correct me if I'm wrong, it's kind of the payments orchestration layer. Can you just give an overview in terms of sort of how that works? Because there may be a lot of fintechs that are listening to this, payments companies going, okay, is Vodacom Business Services and XLink kind of a partner, or are they competing for the same market of us? Where do you guys sit?
It's a really good question, Darren. And I think orchestration as a term is quite one that's core to our DNA. We like to term ourselves as a company that orchestrates payment experiences. To break that down a little bit, what we typically find in the industry is you get players who are really focused and really good at particular verticals, not necessarily wanting to diversify. And this is a really good strategy in that's how you get, let's call it granular services that are priced aggressively, that allow customers to enter the ecosystem or the payments ecosystem as a whole. But how customers, and Kevin brought up SMEs, how they typically go to market is they're not necessarily going and looking for a point solution. They're not looking for a particular capability. They're looking to fulfill a business need. So at XLink, we orchestrate these payment experiences. And what that means is bringing together multiple services that we find across the payment ecosystem and harness them into rational solutions for the customer that are easy to consume. And we remove that complexity from the customer. And what this means is whether we're using a series of in-house technologies from XLink or partnering within the industry with other fintechs, we enable that experience for the customer, so that from an interface perspective, when you're dealing with an XLink, you're looking at end-to-end capability, and our value and really our capability is in enabling that orchestration layer for the customer to enjoy a point, in a box solution, if you will.
So, Taps, am I correct in saying this is not just about sort of local not aggregation, but local orchestration. It's also international payment methods as well. So if I'm in South Africa and I'm buying something e-com or consuming a service in Nairobi, which I know where Kevin's sitting at the moment, can I use my rand to do that as a consumer, and then a merchant can be settled in shillings or can be settled in rand? Are you orchestrating that sort of international payment element as well?
100%. And I think those are quite some useful use cases that we cover at XLink. So if you think of payments, you can really broadly split them into domestic and cross-border. So within an XLink context, we do provide capability that allows for a merchant to orchestrate that different or experience that orchestrated experience of a cross-border payment as well as a domestic payment. How I like to think and describe XLink's vision in terms of payments and payments capability is we wanted to make sure that when a customer is interacting with a merchant and they're looking for a value exchange, we want XLink's technology to be there in every form to support whatever value exchange that allows for that merchant and customer experience to fulfill that value exchange transaction that is happening. So whether that means a customer is showing up in South Africa with rand, but the merchant is expecting the settlement to happen in currency elsewhere, we work together to deliver those solutions in the environment and the context that the merchant is looking for, and with an understanding of what customers have in terms of performing that value exchange.
Okay, and I think just a nice segue to that actually is probably more, or not more, but is also equally important from a Vodacom business perspective is that sort of trust. And I think that's what a lot of fintechs not necessarily struggle with, but a large amount of time, energy, and money is spent for fintechs getting the trust or convincing the consumer or the SME, whoever it may be, that they can trust the product and they can trust the brand behind that, and that there are sort of it's compliant and there's protection and Kevin, how far does that sort of brand and that trust and the loyalty that Vodacom clearly has, how far does that take you? Is it kind of core to what your offering is as kind of a tech company now, or where does that fit in?
I believe for any business, especially a business in technology, especially digital technology, and most importantly, financial digital technology, for example, the fintechs, trust is paramount. Trust is key for a number of reasons. And for us, being one of the most trusted telco in a number of markets, it actually takes us to another level to become that trusted partner of choice for the fintech ecosystem. But just something that I'd like to quote as well is that I remember one of us that saying that trust is gained in drips and lost in buckets, right? So we definitely need to protect that trust that we've earned with our customers, and especially the vulnerable, parts of our communities that we intend to serve and include in this financial journey. So we know very well that regulation around data protection and sovereignty is tightening across Africa. We have over 40 countries across Africa that have data residency laws. How does this partnership now give, for example, banks and insurance that confidence to innovate while staying compliant? So for us, trust is definitely embedded from the ground up with the sovereign, like I mentioned earlier, cloud environments that we've actually built that have aligned with local regulations, with supervisory expectations. That actually takes us to a place where Vodacom is very, very known for, which is providing secure networks and cyber defense from threat prevention and police enforcement practices aligned with financial grade standards across the globe, right? So that's our globally recognized standards. So we're building for stress, we're building for audit, we're building for continuity, and not just for the good, for the good sunny days. And that said, payments, the payment set that comes from XLink also ensures that transaction integrity and uptime. And, giving that end-to-end visibility and real-time monitoring, for example, across all the transaction pathways is something that is very, very essential for us to build that trust and to, ensure that compliance, so that at least the our partners in the fintech ecosystem really benefit from what we've actually built as a technology company.
We talk about compliance, and I think in an African context, it's very complex, right? We've got the FATF in terms of grey listing. Fortunately, I think South Africa is kind of on the road out of that, which is amazing. But we have other countries that are now on that sort of grey list. We have ever-changing regulation. We have 53, 54, depending who you're asking, different regulators, different regulations. Very difficult from a fintech or from a banking perspective, or any of your clients, to kind of keep up to speed with the ever evolving changes in so many different jurisdictions. So where does Vodacom Business come into that? What sort of support do you give to your customers in terms of staying compliant?
Yeah, so that's actually a very good question, and it's actually linked to the previous discussion around trust, right? So compliance in our world isn't an afterthought. It's something that is engineered into every layer of our ecosystem and our technologies, which lets teams, which lets risk teams and product teams move together and work together across the entire value chain. What does that mean for fintechs? It means that, number one, you're working with a trusted technology provider or partner that has decades of experience complying with local regulations and multiple regulations across both technology and in the financial services space. As most of you are well aware, M-Pesa, which is our largest fintech, I would say largest fintech in Africa, is something that is pretty much controlled and managed by us from a compliance perspective. We've managed to keep outside of we've managed to keep in line with the regulations in the markets where we operate in, and we've managed to maintain customers and trusted partners because of the platforms that we actually have and deliver services through. In addition to that, in South Africa, as you can imagine, we also have Vodacom Financial Services, which is also another fintech platform that scales quite significantly and provides quite a significant amount of number of services to millions of customers in South Africa as well. And this can only be done if you're definitely compliant with the local regulations, and of course compliant from a technology perspective, or the technology that you use is also very compliant. So how do we support the fintech ecosystems? Not just by showing them the credibility that we have playing in the same space, which is a fintech space, but also with the number of partners that we've actually managed to bring on board, the customers that we've managed to support over the years, the fact that compliance isn't an afterthought, but engineered in every layer of our ecosystems. And most importantly, the fact that we have a global team, not just in South Africa, but also across the continent and across the globe through our mothership, Vodafone, that is very much embedded in the multiple markets, the multiple geographies, the nuances that come with compliance and risk, and factoring that in a financial services ecosystem. So we have a lot more to give to our partners in the fintech space, whether big or small, that will definitely help them to remain compliant in this very, very complex environment, like you mentioned earlier, Darren.
Yeah, and perhaps from your perspective as well, payment-wise, and the regulations and rules around sort of payments, especially when we're dealing cross-border with XCon and things like that, it's very complex. How do you build products for something that's changing, right? Because it seems like literally the target is moving, and you're kind of trying to build a product that is going to be sort of fit for purpose, but you don't know necessarily what that's going to be. How do you go around sort of building something like that?